What's going on, guys? Thanks for joining us here. I am Rob Bifo, and this is Honest and Uneducated, the show where we talk about anything from movies, movie news, video games, comic books, just all sorts of fun stuff like that. I'm not alone here today. Joining me to help me break down some of these news topics we have here is none other than Rik Metz himself. How are you doing today, Rik?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Hair's looking on point, as they would
thank you.
say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wish I had some I could style, and but I don't, alas. But someone else who has some killer hair that they could do a lot more with than I could is none other than John Knight here. How you doing, John?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Glad to be back.
He does have some good hair.
Looking forward to some WandaVision. Thanks, guys. The pandemic really gave me an excuse to let it go, and so
I'm jealous.
Yeah,
I'm just letting it see how far I can go at this point. I think.
And my hair hasn't been that long. Rik, probably the same for you, but since high school.
Yeah,
Like,
has your hair ever been that long?
It's close. I got down to my shoulders.
Yeah, when
But
we were in high school, I had it like past my shoulders.
Yeah, you had some pretty long hair for a while.
Yeah,
for sure.
That was weird.
That was back when I had hair.
I'm going the unorthodox route. I'm growing my hair longer the later in life, as opposed to the earlier in life, like most people.
At least you can. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
True,
30
that's
and
true.
I can't grow my I'm going bald, dude. Like, it is what it is.
I would not complain.
Yeah, that's definitely it's a good problem to have, like for sure. Like, too much hair. I got it everywhere. I've had a beard since like freshman year of high school, and
since you were like a kid.
I know, literally since I was like, actually since middle school I had a beard.
Jesus.
Like prior to that.
I thought you were like 30 when I met you in high school.
That's what I'm saying. And that's the thing though. Like ironically, I know this isn't really supposed to be hair talk by any means, but supposedly. The most common thing for like male pattern baldness is like an excess of testosterone. So that's why like if you have a beard at a very early age, it's because you had an excess of testosterone.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, which is like, okay, fine. Why am I not jacked then?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I mean, I guess I can put on muscle decently, but I mean, my God, I didn't want to go bald when I was 25. Like, ridiculous. But you know what happened to Sir Patrick Stewart? He turned out fine. So
yeah,
this aspired.
There's a lot of good bald people.
Very
out
true.
There.
Yeah, The Rock. There's plenty of good bald folks. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Steve Austin, great example.
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, guys, a couple things off the top. Do not forget that you can submit topics and questions to the show by emailing us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's honestanduneducated@gmail.com. Other than that, every Wednesday, and this upcoming Wednesday for one, we have collectible reviews go up. So like hot toys, statues, all sorts of things like that. This Wednesday would be I think the Solo Maul is probably the Hot Toys Solo Darth Maul figure, the DX one. The amazing piece. That review will be up Wednesday. Also, every Friday we do live streams. And I normally do like unboxing and like figure previews like that. This past Friday and up on the channel in its own video as well is the Deathstroke hot toy. Did the unboxing and that figure preview of that. We talked about the Bo-Katan figure that's coming out. We talk WandaVision. So come hang out every Friday. We normally have like the spoiler discussions. When like Mandalorian was going on or WandaVision, what have you like that. We'll spend some time talk about that and play some games and all that. And then lastly, if you can't always watch this on YouTube, you can find a podcast version on your podcast platform of choice. But let's get into these first topics here. And the first topic here today is about the Andor TV series, speaking of Disney Plus, coming to Disney Plus here. I don't know if there's been a release date for it, but it's been one that they announced way back when at D23. And it is one that I was kind of probably more excited for than a lot of other people because I really liked the idea of kind of exploring the morally gray area of the rebellion, because that was the one thing that I thought Rogue One did a pretty good job of, was showing that they had to get their hands dirty. Like right in the opening scene, Andor had to kill his informant. That was cool. I mean, it wasn't cool, but I mean, it's cool that they showed it. Like just they had to get their hands dirty. So I was excited to see that. But rumors have come out that maybe, potentially, there might be some Force users making an appearance in the Andor TV series. And there's one here that I think is a little more likely than the other. I think one is just kind of circumstantial, and that would be like Ahsoka. But I think Obi-Wan is probably the one that is a little bit more. I could see him fitting into the Andor story a little bit more. They go on to say in the article, the person who's kind of like leaking or reporting this news. This is obviously just rumors. It's not confirmed or anything. But we're just going to talk about I don't know, what we think is likely about it. Because the Obi-Wan one, he is very familiar with Bail Organa. He's pretty much the only Jedi around at this point in time that would, had an outstanding relationship with Bail Organa. Bail Organa had his hands in the rebellion, so I could totally see probably Obi-Wan showing up in Andor. Maybe. I don't really know why or I don't really know what they'd be going for story-wise where he would fit into it, but I could see him showing up probably more so than Ahsoka, because they go on in the article and they only really name drop Ahsoka because she has multiple. Rosario Dawson, the actress who plays her, has multiple appearances on her contract, but I feel like that's gonna be more related to Mandalorian. She was in Mandalorian season 2, then she has her own show. So, I mean, that already explains the multiple contract thing. So I don't really think the Ahsoka thing is really all that viable. But Rick, what do you think about this? You think this is you think either one of these will pop up in the Andor series, and which one would you want to see pop up if they did?
I think Obi-Wan would be more plausible than Ahsoka. I don't really know why she'd have to show up or anything like that. I mean, I don't know she has any reason to show up really, but like you said with Bail Organa, I think that makes it a little more plausible because of him being part of the rebellion and having his hands in it and everything. So we'll see. I didn't even really think that Obi-Wan would show up, but I mean, rumors are rumors, you know. But just kind of wait and see what happens, I think.
Yeah, I personally don't. I honestly almost feel like it's more likely that neither of them show up at this point.
That's
in
what I
time.
would say. I mean,
But who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. John, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's likely that either of them show up at all, or what do you got? What do you got?
I, to be honest, I don't. I don't really. I have a hard time seeing them work either one of them into it. Um, if I were to guess, I guess Ahsoka, just because she seems more from my impression of Ben and Obi-Wan, and is that when he drops Luke off on Tatooine, he kind of stays there to kind of watch over him from afar. And so I don't know, unless Andor goes to him. There's
good point.
there's been nothing to implicate the fact that Obi-Wan left Tatooine and had other adventures. Now they're doing the Obi-Wan series, so maybe maybe there's a whole thing where he leaves Tatooine and he feels like Luke's being cared for good enough and doesn't need to be there. But I never got that impression from any of the films or anything that we've seen so far that he left once he dropped him off. That being said, Ahsoka, I haven't finished Rebels and Clone Wars, so I don't really know where her story wrapped up and where she was left at the end of those. So maybe she does have a path that leads her to cross the Rebel Alliance and need to help out or be involved with Andor. So that's why I would, if I had to guess, that would be my guess. But yeah, I think it's maybe some wishful thinking. I mean, maybe the Andor crosses with a Jedi that we haven't met yet, or one of the other hidden Jedi that managed to escape Order 66. Who knows? But yeah, that would be my guess on where that's going.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, see, I was initially more on the other camp where because you're right, and I know you said you didn't really watch or finish Clone Wars and Rebels, but Ahsoka does appear in both of the shows, and she
Yeah.
appears in the latter
Mhm.
one, Rebels, which takes place.
She's pretty prominent in that show.
Yeah, so that's more. I mean that's around the same time frame that the whole Andor series would theoretically be taking place. The birth of the rebellion. So definitely a possibility that she could pop up in there. And I mean, I guess to be fair, like the person in the report said, like she does have those multiple appearances on her contract, so maybe a brief appearance, a single episode appearance, much like in Mandalorian season 2, maybe that's on the table. I don't know. And that's the thing too, like you were saying, I don't know really what either of them would do in the show, because it's not like there wasn't even a Force user. There wasn't a Jedi, we'll say. There was a Force user, but there wasn't a Jedi in the Rogue One series.
No,
So
no.
Yeah.
I don't know why all of a sudden Like, it would honestly be kind of odd that, like, they go in through the entire events of Rogue One without the help or mention of any Force user, but then in the Andor show, which is a precursor to Rogue One, obviously, um,
Yeah.
he could have had the help of all of them could have had the help of a Force user at that point. So that's the only thing. So if it is Obi-Wan, it would make sense because he's like, nah, I can't help you. I got to watch this kid. So like
I'm babysitting.
maybe. So I don't know. I don't know where they would fit in, but I guess they would. I wouldn't want them to be there just for the sake of being there. You know what I mean? That's really my only
Sure.
worry.
Yeah.
You also run into not that it's definite that this is what would happen, but you run into the challenge if you bring Ahsoka into that show and she's appearing in Mandalorian and she has her own live action show that we're not really sure, what that's. We think it's going to be her going after General Thawne, right?
It seems to be.
If you're going to be bouncing around with that character at three different time periods at that point, through three different series, so it might get a little confused. Like there may be fans of just the Mandalorian or just the Star Wars films that aren't steeped in the lore, and you have Ahsoka pop up in Andor series, and they'll be like, "Wait a minute, I thought she was in the Mandalorian. How did she get from there to here? I thought this
Yeah.
took place." You kind of open the door for some confusion, for people that aren't diehard fans, I think. But still, it does work. I think it works. I think she works maybe a little better than Obi-Wan. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I was initially, you turned me to the Ahsoka camp more because I really do feel like she would make a little bit more sense. But I also agree that, like, I don't think it would be confusing for people. Like, people who don't follow, like, people who ain't watching these kind of shows, it would be confusing because, like, they'd have to, like, de-age her a little bit for her to appear in, um, the Andor show, theoretically. I mean, she's an alien, so you could kinda get away with it, but, I mean, that's
Sure.
a pretty decent time before, Mandalorian and the time period there. So, I mean, I think this was pre-Death Star 1 being blown up. Mandalorian is post-Death Star 2 being blown up. So,
Yeah.
there's a
Mhm.
significant difference in time there. So I guess
I hope
as
they. I
what were you
hope they're
saying?
not trying to do it just. I hope they're not trying to do it just to do it. Just
Yeah.
the success of Luke's cameo in Mandalorian didn't prompt the execs at Disney to go, "Hey, you know what? We need a big, surprise guest every season on every show." Like, just concentrate on telling your good stories, and when the opportunity presents itself and it makes sense in the story, then yeah, go for it. But don't start just forcing like, "Oh, hey, kids, here's Obi-Wan, here's Yoda, here's whoever," just because you feel like you need a big reveal or whatever.
Yeah, I hope they don't
Like
fall in because that's an easy thing to fall into. Like,
I could honestly, because of Vader's appearance and the success of it in Rogue One, I could see them having a Vader scene.
Yeah.
he did show up in Rogue One, so
Yeah.
yeah,
That was a good scene.
So
and he is gonna be
I
in
could
Obi-Wan.
I could see, like, the rebels, Palpatine hears about this upstart rebel alliance and he sends Vader out to try and check some fools or something. I don't know. Like, that I could see.
That
More
would
so
actually be
even
kinda
maybe.
cool because I mean, everyone always has wanted, well, not everyone, but there's been always a lot of, like, talk and wanting of that Vader movie or something where he's hunting down the Jedi. So it'd be
Yeah.
kinda, they could throw him in there and be like, maybe that's how, instead of hunting down all these Jedi, "Oh, there's word that there's some rebel base out here. Let me go," Palpy sends them out to investigate or something.
Papa Pouts.
I mean, and they could use that actually to kinda tee up the Obi-Wan show maybe too, because Vader's supposed to be
Sure.
making an appearance there, and
I
they could
wonder how
kinda,
that's gonna work.
they could set the whole, well, we'll talk about the Obi-Wan thing on the next time because that is our next topic has to do with Obi-Wan anyway. So, we'll just wrap this one up right here, guys. So the question is, what do you think about either Ahsoka or Obi-Wan appearing in the Andor TV series? Do you think it's even something that's necessary? I mean, as long as they have a good way of, if they're there for a narrative purpose, then I'm all for it. But I don't want them just to show up just to show up. Because it was cool that Luke Skywalker showed up at the end of Mandalorian, but there was narrative purpose for it. I mean, it could have been one of it. It could have been unnamed Jedi person, but at the same time, it was much cooler. that it was Luke Skywalker. So let us know what you think down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next topic here is a bit of Obi-Wan casting news. So we'll continue our conversation from before with some of these Obi-Wan theories with Vader and everything, I'm sure. But we have news here that I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I'm going to say Indira Varma. That's what we're going with. She formerly she's been in quite a few things, but most predominantly for me, she was in Game of Thrones, and I really liked her in Game of Thrones. I forget what her character name was, but she was with Oberyn Martell initially, and then with the Vipers, the women. What do they call the women assassin people? I can't even remember. It's been so long since I've read the books or watched the show. I can't even remember the three girls from Dorne who, like, whatever they were. They were really cool characters, and she was really good in that show. She's also been in a couple. There were some BBC shows she was in. Alaria Sand was her name in Game of Thrones. There we go. Man, the name of the group of women now is just bothering me. I don't know what the hell they were called. Either way, this is exciting casting. And me and Rick both think that there's a good chance this is all based on nothing more than the looks, like her look. But we think she could be playing Satine. All right, that's what we're thinking.
Oh yeah.
So, but Rick, speaking of which, what do you think about this? Elaborate more. Like, what you think? You think Satine will be popping up in here, and you think she'll be playing Satine, or you think she'll be some new original character?
Well, there's a lot of rumors. I'm on a lot of Facebook Star Wars groups, and that's what everybody's kind of speculating. But as soon as I saw her, I mean, outside of the hair color, I think she looks pretty similar, like facial structure wise and all that. And Obi-Wan and Satine, everybody thinks they like got it on, never showed it, but they're pretty close.
Speaking of which, that's what I always wanted Rey's lineage to be. I wanted us to find out that she was Obi-Wan and Satine's love child.
Well, there's a kid actually that is apparently the nephew of Bo-Katan. His name is Corky Kryze, and he bears a striking resemblance to Obi-Wan, and people speculate he was from the Clone Wars show. People think that maybe, just maybe, they had a kid together and didn't tell anybody, but they've never really, there's no truth to that, I don't think, but that would be my guess. It would make sense to have flashback scenes of him and Satine, like him on Tatooine, like, man, I miss that girl. But I don't know.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
Right now, going into it, I think I would lean more towards her being Satine than...
Who else would she be?
Yeah, because if not, then I think she would be some original character. But
yeah,
she's...
Maybe his girl on Tatooine or something?
Yeah, I just figure it's got to be something more... I mean, she could be just someone on Tatooine, maybe. Like, I don't know. John, what do you think? You think that she's going to be some new original character? You think she's going to be Satine? What do you got? You got any other theories that we haven't heard?
I'm out of my depths here, man. I don't even know who Satine is. Like, I'm assuming she's a Clone Wars or Rebels character.
She's the Duchess of Mandalore.
I'm making my way through. I think I've got one episode left on season 1 of Clone Wars. So, and that's just starting it in the past like 3 weeks. So, I'm making my way through Clone Wars. I hope to catch up eventually, but yeah, I don't know who Satine is. So, this is all new to me. I think it's a great casting though, because I've loved her in Game of Thrones. So I mean, they're keeping their casting quality at the high peak that they've put it.
True.
She's Bo-Katan's sister.
Yeah.
Satine herself is the Duchess of Mandalore.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's why
killed by Maul.
Yeah, and that's why like there's the whole lineage there with like Bo-Katan being the rightful ruler. Not rightful, but next in line lineage wise, that's why she's supposed to, has her claim to the whole Darksaber thing and being the ruler of Mandalore.
She looks strikingly similar to yeah.
She could definitely pull it off. Like that's I'm leaning towards Satine. But I could totally see her being like, she's been with Obi-Wan. Her and Obi-Wan, they got a thing going on, man.
They do. So. And Obi-Wan actually said at one point that he would leave the Jedi Order for her. So
yeah, they have a lot of...
They definitely love each other. Like,
yeah, they definitely do. And they touch on that in Clone Wars like real heavy. So that's where that whole thing... Obviously, you can see from the pictures here. But there's... Once they get into the whole Mandalore arc, which is honestly probably the best the better part of the show. That's when
It's
like
more
Maul comes
important.
into play and all that kind of stuff. But that's when she's introduced, and like she was a cool character in herself. She was fine, like not as like probably not as exciting as like a Bo-Katan kind of character as far as the action goes, but the love interest part of it would be pretty compelling as far as just like Obi-Wan is concerned, because that's not something that we ever saw him really be. The only person we ever saw him be really affectionate with at all was Anakin.
Yeah.
And that was more of a father-son, best friend kind of relationship, more so than like Anakin had Padme. Obi-Wan, all the movies we've seen him in, he was a hermit. He didn't express any of that. Then
Yeah.
you finally see in the Clone Wars that there was someone there for him. So it might be cool to see him, if they explore that a little bit more. They could maybe retcon some stuff and add in, like you said, that, what was his name? Buddy or whatever?
Corky.
Corky.
There's a picture of him right there with Bo-Katan.
What, is this guy?
No,
I'm just
no,
kidding.
that's a Rodian. Next to that picture.
Oh, this fella here?
Yeah, that's him. And there's like memes people have actually made where they put somebody in. It's like an actual picture of Obi-Wan and then meeting a Mandalorian, like they somehow photoshopped it or whatever. And he's like apparently going to tell Obi-Wan, he's like, by the way, I'm your kid.
Hmm.
And I don't know.
We'll see.
He's Mandalorian.
We'll see. I'm probably...
He looks like Obi-Wan.
I could see it. I mean, I could definitely see it. It's definitely hard to say. I mean, because these Clone Wars animations, the one thing that I never really, until like I've said this before, the most recent Clone Wars, like episode, what was it, season 7, the most recent one?
Yeah.
The environments looked incredible, like the animation for it, but I've never been a fan of the character
Do you
designs.
remember the original Clone Wars cartoon from the
Yeah,
early?
the
Dude,
2D
those
anime
characters
one?
looked crazy.
Yeah, that was like, that was almost anime looking.
It was like just a cartoon, and
Yeah.
they looked wild, like Dooku especially. But
Well, that's where most famously Dooku gets his wheezing from.
yeah,
Because Mace
so you mean
Windu.
Grievous?
Oh yeah, sorry. Mace Windu crushes Grievous's chest plate there when he's trying to escape, and then Grievous gets his. That's why he's wheezing when you run into him in Revenge of the Sith.
No.
So-
More you know.
Yeah, never explain it otherwise. You just get introduced to him in the movies, and he's just like, "Why is this guy wheezing? He's a
Yeah.
robot." And like, you have no
Coughing
idea
and
why.
wheezing and
Yeah. And it's like, well, he used to have lungs.
yeah. Well,
Like-
he's got like a chest cavity that has like I think lungs and
Mhm.
a heart and that sort of stuff. But
He's supposed to be the precursor to Vader, right? I mean, he's the Empire's early attempts to
he's not
Mech-
like Sith or anything.
mechanize a living person, right?
I forget how that all worked out.
I don't know what I thought. My Grievous lore is a little.
Dooku trained him.
I always thought, I mean, not again having no knowledge of Clone Wars and Rebels and what takes place in between the movies. My impression was always that George Lucas threw Grievous in there because he's like the de-evolution of Vader. Vader is, a human that they almost perfect the mechanized part of to keep him alive. Grievous is their kind of very beta attempts to do that to
Yeah.
keep somebody alive with mechanics.
I mean, it kind of does rhyme in that way anyway, because it is, from what I understood, he was somebody who had a normal, like, biological form, but like he lost the limbs, and like like just like with the wheezing chest and everything, it was like he didn't by choice necessarily become a cyborg, but they needed to.
Yeah, I always thought the wheezing in watching Attack of the Clones, I always thought that the wheezing, I was like, oh, that's pretty clever because Vader has that very mechanical voice, that he does. Yeah, and I just always felt that, just as the way the body was, but the voice too, or the breathing too, was the precursor of what Vader would do later on. Grievous was, that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What do you guys think too before we wrap up the Obi-Wan arc while we're here? What do you think's going to happen with the Anakin in here? You think, because you mentioned it before when we were talking, like we've known and it's always been implied that Obi-Wan never left Tatooine. But it was also been implied that they didn't. They're in A New Hope when they have their little tango. I don't really. Actually, a tango is more intense than that damn sword that saber
that was
fight
the
was.
worst.
But like, it is heavily implied that their last meeting was on Mustafar. Like, that's essentially what the understanding has been. That's what they pretty much, that line where, last time I was but the
student.
student, now master, whatever. That whole line. Like, it was always supposed to be like, okay, they haven't, like, Mustafar was that. And I think George has even been on record saying that. So they're obviously retconning this in some way because we know Vader's coming back. What do you think they're going to do with that? You think he does go off world? You think Vader comes to him?
I think Vader. Go ahead.
Was the announcement that Hayden? I know that they announced Hayden Christensen is coming back. Was the announcement? Did they specify that he's coming back as Vader?
Yeah,
because they said that, and they also said it's going to be
Okay.
like the rematch of the century or something. So like they literally confirmed like they're going to have a fight again.
yeah. So we'll see what happens. But
So they can kind of easily retcon it into where it's like, well, this just becomes the last time they met, as opposed to Mustafar, even though it was obviously always Mustafar. But either way, I don't think though that, like, I think this is going to have to suggest that Obi-Wan goes off world though, because if Anakin or Darth Vader finds out that Obi-Wan is on Tatooine, one, he hates Tatooine.
he hates sand.
He hates sand, so he's not going to want to go back to Tatooine to begin with. But if he goes back, if he somehow learns that Obi-Wan is there, wouldn't he find Luke at that point? He's still at the same house. Like, Anakin's been there before. Like, he went there and met freaking Uncle Owen. Like,
yeah.
so I feel like the thing would have to take Obi-Wan off world because it was just, I don't know. It's just, if he comes to Tatooine, it just becomes too messy, like, canonically, because it's like, well, how did he not? We know Vader always struggled with like the light side. It's like, wouldn't you think he'd want to go back to where his mom died and all that shit? See Uncle Owen and all them.
You'd think.
Like even if he did it from afar, like wouldn't he just?
Well, in comics, there's actually something where Vader does go back to Tatooine and he slaughters like an entire village of sand people, kind of like he did in Attack of the Clones. And I don't think the comics though, they're just legends at this point. So,
well, if they were a newer comic, then it would technically be canon.
I think it is pretty new too, from what I understand. But
yeah, but Disney and their whole canon thing, they've been contradicting everything that they say.
Yeah,
because now I don't know what they're going to do, because they used to say, well, it's as long as it doesn't contradict the movies, then it's canon. Not how canon works, but
no.
I don't know what that means for the shows now, because it's like, okay, well, if it happens in the show but contradicts the movie, what happens then? Is that canon? So I don't know. But either way, let's have wait and see.
Yeah.
You think Anakin's gonna come to Earth or Tatooine, or you think Obi-Wan's going off world, John?
I don't know, man. I guess, I mean, honestly, it would make sense for Obi-Wan to leave, I guess, at some point, despite the fact that I feel like it was very strongly implied. I mean, Luke knows who Ben Kenobi is in A New Hope, and it's not like he just, I mean, like, he seems very familiar. He knows where to go to find him too. It's not just, so he knows where he lives and stuff. I feel like he gives the sense that he's known him his whole life almost. So it would be weird, but that doesn't mean that Obi-Wan didn't leave occasionally for, a couple weeks or a month at a time. And, obviously Luke wouldn't necessarily know about that when he's a child. He wouldn't be keeping tabs on that closely. So, I don't know. It could work that way. It's
the only thing that I honestly like is throwing me off with this whole Obi-Wan show is that when we first get introduced to Obi-Wan Kenobi or Ben in A New Hope, the droid says Obi-Wan or whatever. Like Luke tells him like, "Oh, looking for Obi-Wan Kenobi," and he's like, "Oh, that's a name I haven't heard in X amount, like a long time." It's like, Well, obviously, like, that's not true at this point. Like, this isn't that much before this. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? He's implying that he hasn't heard it since frickin' Revenge of the Sith happened. Can't be
Unless this
true
is
now.
like unless this is right on the tails of the end of unless the Obi-Wan series happens right on the tail of Revenge of the Sith and Vader tracks him down because of my biggest question is like why bring Hayden Christensen back besides just being able to say, hey, that guy in that suit there is Hayden Christensen. Um, it's just a guy in a suit at that point. I mean, unless they're going to have Vader with his helmet off at some point, in which case it's, are they going to put all the prosthetics on Hayden Christensen to show him all scarred and stuff? And even then, it's kind of like, so I almost wonder if they're going to do some flashbacks or something too with the two of them.
Possible.
Because otherwise, I have a hard time really. Besides being able to say it's Hayden Christensen in the suit, I don't know why you bring him back.
Well, I think, like I was telling you, Rob, what if the entire Obi-Wan show is based on flashbacks? Like Obi-Wan telling his story to somebody, basically. And I mean, you could introduce so many characters if that was the case. And it's just like you're watching stuff from the past pop up, and that's where you're seeing like Satine and Vader and who knows who else, but
I don't
that's
know.
my theory.
They might do the plan. I could honestly see it being more or less just a thing where us knowing that it's Hayden Christensen is the cool thing about it, and then they could do like a couple scenes with Vader with his helmet off, or do what they well, not so much or. This is more of a it could be both and not either or, right? So there could be flashbacks. There could also be Vader with his mask off, but then there could also be what happened in Rebels with Ahsoka versus Vader, where Vader's helmet gets kind of damaged, so you can see him through it.
Yeah, that happens to him a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, they could do something like that during this rematch where like Vader's helmet gets damaged, so then Obi-Wan gets to look Anakin in the eyes and vice versa.
Or what if he just takes it off to show him, like, this is what you made me?
He's got to be able to breathe.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
But it is true because I mean, it is kind of Obi-Wan's. Actually, is it Obi-Wan's fault or is it Anakin's fault?
It's Anakin's fault.
It's Anakin's.
He told him he had the high ground.
He did. He had the high ground.
He chose to jump at him.
He did. He didn't. He underestimated his power. He underestimated it. But I guess realistically, he underestimated Obi-Wan's power, or at least his ability to go sync. So, question is, guys, what do you think about all this? Do you think that what is her name again? Yeah, Indira Varma. Do you think she's going to be playing Satine, or do you think she's going to be playing a new original character for the Obi-Wan series? And what do you think this Vader coming back for the Obi-Wan series means? Do you think he's going to be making a trip back to Tatooine, place he hates that's full of sand? Or do you think this means that Obi-Wan's going to be taking some off-world trips, flashbacks, whatever it is? Let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys, so our next topic kicks us over to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but keeping with the Disney theme, I guess. Today, we normally shill out for HBO and DC and stuff. We're always shilling out for HBO Max and stuff, but I guess today, I don't even think, well, we do have a DC story here coming up, but this one is just some fun. We got some set photos, some of them fresh off the press. They were out like an hour ago with Jane Foster Thor, but it's just Jane Foster, so there's no costume or anything like that. And there's also Tessa Thompson on set as well, but primarily, and this will have, if you want to be completely spoiler free, these are set photos, not officially released, but nothing really gives it away. But if you want to stay spoiler free, you might consider some of these set photos to be spoilery. So there's your warning. This is for Thor 4, obviously. But the most interesting ones, which I was happy to see making an appearance back, if you remember from Thor Ragnarok, right after the intro scene with Thor and Surtur, and he beats him and he takes the crown back to Asgard, and Odin's sitting there watching the play, and then Matt Damon and Luke Hemsworth had their little cameo there, them putting on the play. Matt Damon played Loki and all that. Looks like that play, or a new version of the play, is going to be occurring in Thor 4, and we have Melissa McCarthy on set in a hella costume to boot. We got Liam Hemsworth back in some Thor garb, and apparently, I don't know where. I apologize because the site layout for this is kind of ridiculous looking. But Ben Falcone, which is Melissa McCarthy's husband, is also reportedly in one of these set photos somewhere. I don't see where, but apparently they were on here. And there's Donald Trump. And so yeah, I'm just happy that this is coming back. This is one of the funnier things that kind of happened in the movie. It's pure Taika Waititi, like 100% Taika Waititi stuff. So I was just happy to see that the play is coming back in some way. So I just thought it was kind of cool. I thought it was cool. Then we also got, what else we got here? I think there's any other cool ones here. There's our boy Matt Damon. So Matt Damon is back reprising his role as Loki. Like, he just looks ridiculous though too. These man, I'm excited for this. Did you guys like the scene, like the whole play bit in the Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
It's cool to see Matt Damon make an appearance.
Absolutely, of course. But yeah, so we just got some of these. Nothing too exciting, but I was just happy to see that it's coming back. We got Jane Foster here on set. First photos of this. Not really looking Thor-y yet. Just,
being held up by blue people.
Yeah, Blue Man Group making their cameo.
Right.
And we got more pictures of that. Nothing too exciting. This fellow, though, looks like... Who's this fellow? Look at that. He's wearing some Asgardian-looking armor. Right. And he's got, like, a Soviet little hat on. Who's this dude? Interesting. And then we got Tessa Thompson wearing a pinstripe suit. Which is interesting. Like, yeah, because, I mean, I find it odd that she's wearing this outfit.
Right.
She's supposed to be the new king of New Asgard, but why she rocking the suit? This is like Men in Black stuff,
right?
Like, was she riding like a donkey or something?
New Asgard it's on Earth, right? So
it is on Earth.
So if she's the ruler of it, maybe she's involved in the international community in some way. And that's her business attire for
maybe. Like it's like going to like the United Nations or something.
Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't consider that. Yep. Yeah, but Sam Neill back is Odin, obviously here too as well, reprising his role. This is actually more
a lot of pictures.
Taika Waititi there, just hanging out,
just having a drink like that.
It'd be great, dude, to be making a movie with Taika Waititi. I feel like it's probably like one of the best things you could possibly do.
Yeah,
I'm just sure it's a blast, dude. And then too, they're filming this down in Australia, so like think of how convenient it must be for like Chris Hemsworth, because he just lives there. Like, how like awesome that would be, like just like filming it in your homeland.
Wonder why they chose Australia.
I don't know. I don't know if they filmed the other one there.
There's a lot of pictures.
There's a lot of pictures. I didn't even realize there were this many of them.
There's Pratt there. Nothing to do with Thor, but
he's in Thor 4.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. All the Guardians are in
the
Thor
Guardians
4.
are, right?
Yeah.
Well, so
that would make sense, I guess.
After the end of the way Endgame ended, I think everybody was waiting on that setup to pay off.
Yeah.
True. And then here's some more new, like, I wonder if this is like Jane Foster Thor stuff. This like Asgardian armor. I wonder if it has anything, because like that other guy who was wearing that little Soviet hat was wearing the same color scheme of that armor. I wonder if what do you think they're actually going to do with this Jane Foster Thor thing? You think this is going to be like a multiverse kind of thing, or do you think this is like the Jane Foster we know? Like his Jane Foster, the one that's been in the movies already?
I have no idea.
I definitely think it's his Jane Foster.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what the comic book story is, and I don't I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I mean, I could see if they follow the route of that, she becomes Thor out of a necessity that exists. Um, yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just weird because does that mean they're gonna do unworthy Thor? Because I mean, I don't know what they're gonna
I mean,
do.
I guess I'll just say, I mean, if people were watching this, they don't care about spoilers too much. We said that there are going to be spoilers in the pictures too. I mean,
Yeah.
Jane has cancer in the comic books, and becoming Thor is the thing that kind of saves her from succumbing to the cancer. So, if they try and do something similar in the movie, they could very well Thor could give up his powers to her to save her life in some fashion, or he could just lose his power somehow, or he could be confined, or there could be something that happens with him that
Mhm.
causes that to happen.
I find it interesting that they decided to do the Jane Foster Thor before. I would have guessed Beta Ray Bill would have made an appearance before Jane Foster Thor did. Like even though Jane Foster is an established character already, I just don't know. I don't know why you do both. Because like Natalie Portman, like it kind of just had made it kind of apparent that she didn't even want to be in the movies anymore. But then now she's coming back, and it's interesting. Jane Foster Thor is a very cool looking character. I'll give it that. Like I'm excited to see what they do with it. I just think it's an odd
Mhm.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see. You guys got anything else you want to add with it? I'm just glad the play is coming back again. Like I loved the first scene of it, so we got that. It's gonna be fun to see Melissa McCarthy as Hella. So I'm not
I'm
like a
hella
huge
excited.
yeah, I'm hella excited. That's a good one. I'm not a big Melissa McCarthy fan by any means, but like she'll be funny in that role. I think so anyway. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Question is, guys, what do you think about that? Are you excited? Are you like me and just happy to see that Taika Waititi's bringing back the play whole thing from Thor Ragnarok, that bit again? I am. Okay. Just saying it again, I'm excited that's just coming back in general. And then what do you think about this Jane Foster Thor stuff? Well, how do you think they're going to introduce this? Do you think this is the Natalie Portman Jane Foster character that we know, or is this some multiverse thing? Multiverse of madness coming. Whatever you think, let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next topic here takes us from the Marvel Cinematic Universe over to the DC Extended Universe. I don't know what they're calling it anymore. I don't even know if they're going to even continue that on at this point. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. They might be doing this whole standalone movie thing. We don't know yet. Some of them seem to be connected, though. This one in particular is Black Adam. It's finally happening. They are supposedly they announced this movie like God, how long ago was it? Like The Rock came out and said that he was going to play. It was like literally like 9 years ago, 6 years ago, or something. It was some crazy long time ago. They were finally going to start production last year. They were supposed to start filming, and then COVID happens, shuts everything down. It's not like a cursed movie by any means. I wouldn't go that far yet. It's just a movie that like they just haven't had time to get done. But then as of DC fandom, I'm telling you what, this movie became one of my like most anticipated movies. I don't just in general, because they're introducing the JSA, and then the obvious ties to like Shazam. But apparently next month they are actually going to start filming this. And the producer said here, obviously, you know how passionate we are about this project, said Garcia. This is very special to us. And not only Black Adam, but JSA and all these characters we're introducing to the world and what we want to do with it. We were supposed to have been filming last year. COVID delayed everyone when it kind of got in the way, but we're happy to be able to pause, regroup, and now we're going to be getting going. Interesting turn of phrase. And by April, we'll be shooting and on track to bring this thing home. So it's finally happening. Next month in April, hopefully, they're going to make this movie. And again, I'm super stoked for this because of the JSA announcement, as he goes on to say. Like, Dr. Fate's one of my favorite DC characters, so I'm super stoked to see him on the big screen. We kind of got him in Smallville. They did a better job than I thought they would have done, in all honesty, for, Smallville kind of characters. You know, they weren't 100% true. It was definitely their own takes on everything, right? And Doctor Fate was one that they actually did that was pretty true to the character. And so I'm excited to see him on the big screen. What do you guys think about this? You think it's actually going to happen?
We'll see. I think it'd be cool. I mean, I know he really wants to play Black Adam. I mean, I sent that picture where he's got like his workout stuff and there's a Black Adam script there and everything. So,
Yeah, that was a couple months ago,
yeah,
like a month or two ago.
yeah.
That was the
So,
first little teaser we got of it from this year.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting on footage from it, like before I believe it's actually happening.
true.
True. That's how I am about Flash.
They drop a trailer, yeah. I mean, when they drop a trailer, then I'm like, all right, cool. Now I can actually like mark that date on my calendar because I just, again, the whole DC production thing is, Marvel's one thing. The pandemic and the delays with Marvel and Star Wars and stuff like that. That all's understandable. DC, like, it's just so poorly run over there that I just don't have a lot of faith that any of these projects are actually going to happen because we've been told it's the whole fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you type deal. I mean, they've told us for years that, oh, we're production's going to start soon. Oh, just getting the script ready. Oh, we're just doing this. And then time after time after time, something comes up to cause them to reevaluate where they're taking the franchises and where they're taking the characters and what the actual goal of the whole DC film slate is. And and I don't believe that any of those questions are actually answered at this point. So now it's just a matter of are they going to finally be okay just making the movies and letting them stand on their own?
Yeah, I agree, man. We're just gonna have to. I just hope it gets made because, like I said, that DC fan. This was the coolest DC fandom panel, I think, when they did that event. This one blew me away because I mean, I just didn't expect the JSA stuff, but then they actually had all like the concept art and everything to show, and like they had the kid playing Atom Smasher come on, and they were talking about it. And just the amount of stuff that like I just never thought they would actually. I really never knew what they would do with this. Like I almost felt like in some ways it was just going to be kind of gimmicky because like we got The Rock to do it. Like I
Right.
didn't know what they were gonna do. Like I didn't know if they were just gonna do like the whole, you know, a prequel kind of thing where it shows him doing like when he first gets the powers, kind of like Shazam Redux, but with he goes bad. Like I don't know, but it seems like they're doing maybe a little bit of that because they showed some concept art of that kind of stuff, but then seems to take place like just like 80s or 70s, 60s, 50s, whatever they're gonna do with the JSA, wherever they're gonna set that time frame in. And now I'm curious too because of the end of Shazam, they kind of teased Black Adam in one of those scenes. So is it gonna end in like modern day? Is they gonna have the JSA just be in modern day? Like I'm
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple. I mean, we know that they're filming Shazam 2 right now, right? They talked about that they're filming that now, or is it supposed to start soon?
I
I
think
can't remember.
I can't remember either. Let me look it up.
I know it's supposed to be coming out next year. And I just I think we talked about it not that long ago. I think they said their one the one
Oh,
woman that played
2023.
one. Yeah. One of the cast announced that they were going back to filming for Shazam 2 in the upcoming next couple months here. And that's more than anything else, as much as I want to see the Black Adam movie, as much as I want to whatever, I want them to just start getting movies out so that we can get to a Shazam Black Adam movie. Like the longer it takes them to make this first Black Adam movie, because we know that it's going to be a standalone movie. We know as far as Shazam Black Adam interaction, we know Black Adam's not going to be in Shazam 2. He's not going to be in Shazam's not going to be in the Black Adam movie. They need to get both these films done and out there so that we can get to the Shazam Black Adam movie at some point. I mean, if they do, it's kind of like Zack Snyder with bringing Jared Leto back to film a scene with Ben Affleck for Justice League Snyder Cut. If they do Black Adam films and they do Shazam films, but they never have those two characters meet in their films or one of their films, going to be the biggest like misstep in all of superhero film. They are
Mhm.
they're mortal enemies. They're intrinsically linked together. You don't say Black Adam without Shazam. You don't say Shazam without Black Adam. They just go together. It's like Batman and Joker, or Lex Luthor and Superman, or whatever. Spider-Man and Green Goblin. Like, if they decide that they're going to make these films and never have, it's just going to be astounding to me. And the clock's running on these. They've taken their time. They've, like you said, they've excuse my language, but they pissed away 10 years almost of potential for these characters in these movies. So let's go. Let's get it done.
I just hope that because they've had the movie better be great because they've had so much time to work on it at this point. For it to come
Yeah.
out and be some mediocre, just run of the mill, old kind of comic book movie is like my biggest kind of fear. It comes out and we get Blade Trinity, but Black Adam. You know what I mean? They've had
Yeah.
so much time to work on this thing that there's just no excuse that it's not great. I mean, I know making
Yeah.
movies are hard, but it's literally been like 6 to 9 years since this thing was announced. So
It really has been a long time.
it's been a long time. The plans, like I said, at Fandom, everything they revealed and the way the direction this whole movie is going has me really excited. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Question is, guys, what do you think about this? Are you excited? Just as excited as I am for the whole Black Adam movie in general. But like me, are you a little, and John too, like you a little hesitant and kind of you'll believe it when you see it? Because that's definitely how I am with The Flash. Even though Andy Muschietti took that picture outside of the studio lot, didn't mean cameras started rolling yet. They announced that they're going to do this Black Adam movie in April. It ain't April yet. This thing could get delayed again. I hope not, because I really want to see the movie and I just want to see it get made. Hope it's good, but let us know what you think down in the comment section below. All right, guys, so our penultimate topic here before we get into our WandaVision finale, spoiler discussion, theory craft, where everything's going, all that sorts of fun stuff, is a story that has a little bit, I mean, one, it's a lot to kind of expected, but also disappointing news. And that's Comic-Con 2021 has officially been canceled. And Comic-Con International, San Diego Comic-Con, obviously, they go on to say that we have made the challenging decision to postpone Comic-Con 2021 as an in-person gathering until our 2022 dates, and once again hold this year's celebration as the free online Comic-Con at home. We will return to San Diego Convention Center July 20th to July 24th, 2022. And they have a further statement. But this comes right off the heels of them initially saying that they were going to do Comic-Con at home with the potential of actually just delaying the in-person event until November of this year. But they shortly after that came out, I think this is just like a day or two later, they went on to say like, nope, we're just going to cancel the whole thing. So that's where we're at now. That's kind of just the unfortunate thing. I wasn't planning on going, but I haven't even had a chance to go to a San Diego Comic-Con. I'd love to go.
It'd be sweet.
Like it would be awesome, but it's kind of an event for us. I mean, we don't live in California.
Yeah, that'd
So-
be a ways to go.
Yeah, it's a big ordeal for us because we'd have to book tickets to fly out across the country. We're over in Ohio, so obviously it's a long flight. Definitely too long of a drive. I'm not making
Yeah.
that drive. And then because it's like a big event, like the tickets alone to get in are expensive.
Oh, I can imagine.
Booking hotels during this time is expensive. But then we got
It's
to
if
put
you
on
can
the
get
plane
'em.
ticket. Exactly, if you can even get them. And then throw on top of that the plane ticket. And because we were making such a big event out of the whole thing, wouldn't want to just go to like one day. We'd want to make a week out of it, get our money's worth. But that just then
Maybe we'll get to
continues to increase the cost. So
do an
Plus you-
H&U field trip eventually.
yeah, maybe.
Plus, you
It-
got to have the scratch to pick up some souvenirs from the con.
Oh, exactly. Because
It's a
you
lot of
can't go
money.
there and not get something while you're there, right?
You got to cosplay and
Yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah, especially if you're gonna do like a big all-out cosplay, then you're going to buy and put together your cosplay outfit.
which you'd want to for that, I feel like.
Oh yeah, for sure. I got them Jedi robes, man. I got the stuff coming. I'd be wearing that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not, but yeah, pandemic aside, you would get like there's a notorious thing called like the Comic-Con crud. Like so like people would go without a pandemic and they get sick at Comic-Con because you're literally at 100,000 people crammed in shoulder to shoulder. Like they're not always the most cleanly of people. You know
No.
what I mean? So like
I can only imagine the smells.
yeah, it smells bad, everything I hear. I mean, I go to like the cons around here and some of them like Wizard World gets pretty big, like as far as like crowded big, and it's nowhere near as big as like San Diego by any means, but it doesn't smell too great there either. You know what I mean?
The stench of
And you're
BO.
shoulder to shoulder. I can't even imagine actually like I wouldn't even try to go to like Hall H or anything like that. People literally camp out there like days in advance outside of the depending on whatever panel they want to see. They're there days before. There's people lined up and they spend their entire time just camping and out to get in Hall H. I just don't even know. I don't think I would ever try to do anything like that. What would you guys do at a actual in-person Comic-Con? What would you look? Because I would look forward to just like the
Freak
booth and
out.
walking the floor more than anything.
That's what I would say. I mean, like I think seeing the panels and stuff like that would be fairly difficult. Just being there, I think would be super cool. You know, cosplaying and just buying a bunch of cool shit. You know, I've always wanted to go to Comic-Con.
You know, one day.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to run into Adam Savage too, and he's always got wild cosplays that he does, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like really good at that. So that'd be cool.
Absolutely. What about
Yeah,
you, John?
I mean, I'd love to go. I would. I think I'd, depending on what year it was and what was coming up, I would probably do Hall H. Just because, you know, I want that experience of, you know, being there when they announce or show the first trailer for the next Avengers movie. Like, let's say they do it next year, and let's say by next year they announce the next Avengers movie or whatever, or we're going to get our first, you know, footage from the first new the new Fantastic Four movie or the new X-Men movie whenever that comes out. You know, being there that year that they show that and being in that room for that debut footage, as much as that stuff goes up online, then you know almost instantaneously now, whether it's bootleg or official releases, as much as you're able to still see that stuff by not being there, I still think just being in that room and feeling the energy of the crowd and having the actors on stage when they debut something like that would be a pretty unique experience, pretty memorable thing that I, you know, probably would try and do just because it is unique to San Diego. You can't get that at other cons.
Mhm.
I would and you know that would be like you said, if I went, I'd go for the entire weekend. I'd go the Thursday through Sunday, and that would be my Saturday. My Saturday would be my Friday night, and Saturday morning would be camping in that line, waiting to get into Hall H. But then Thursday and you know part of the day Friday, and then Sunday would I definitely you know walk the floor, probably try and attend some. I would want to do the autograph signings for some of the people that I would never get a chance to probably meet, you know, in our neck of the woods. But
True.
yeah, that's kind of my general thoughts on how I'd approach it if I were going.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I would definitely if they had some big it'd be hard to not wanna try to camp out for, like, the Marvel thing if they if we knew, like, Avengers 5 was in production or something.
Like
It would be hard.
let's go out on a limb and say Snyder Cut just does unbelievably great, and Warner Brothers can't say no to doing Justice League Part 2.
Mhm.
Would you camp out for Hall H to see Zach take the stage and talk about Justice League 2, you know, if they
Yeah.
did that.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
Man of Steel 2, if they announce they're gonna have a Man of Steel panel
yeah.
and with the implication they're gonna do and Henry, you know, Henry Cavill's gonna be there. Oh man, like there's quite a few things out there I think that I would that would get me to camp out and do Hall H.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The only downside anymore though is like pre-COVID even, like DC and Marvel have kind of been pulling out of Comic-Con. They haven't been doing like because Marvel's got D23 now that they're trying to pump out, and that's where there's Disney's not because I think Disney said that like Marvel's not even going to be a part of it anymore. They
Well,
might
and
still be
DC's
here
got
in the neighborhood.
fandom.
Yeah, so that's
And
the
DC's
thing.
got fandom now, and with Comic-Con being online this year, I can guarantee that DC will do fandom again,
Hmm.
and Marvel will do D23. So you're right. It may be by the time Comic-Con actually returns in 2 years, DC and Marvel may have jumped ship already.
And that was my big concern with when fandom happened. I think the first thing I said was like, if this is successful, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't just do it the in person when they can, like DC doing their own convention. Like if they got a big
Yeah.
enough turnout for the online thing, and they did a good job with it. Like they actually did really good. And you too, though, you actually watched some of the Comic-Con at home stuff this past year, right? Because like
Yeah, I
I
did.
didn't watch any of it. I heard some of the panels were pretty good, but it was otherwise kind of a lackluster kind of event.
Yeah, I mean, DC had a much now, to be fair, DC did theirs 2 months after
You
Comic-Con
froze on
hits.
a really good face again.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're back too. Damn, I was gonna go full screen on you.
That was my ponder face, I guess.
Yeah.
DC had a couple months post, San Diego to figure out how to do it a little bit how to do it online in a way that was more entertaining.
Mhm.
Comic-Con's really it was straight like Zoom calls, panels, and there were some cool ones with some fun information. I still remember I watched the David Goyer one just because of his connection with the Dark Knight franchise and then the Man of Steel franchise, and I really enjoyed that one. Um, but it was not nearly the production values weren't nearly what DC did with theirs, and it wasn't as much of a show or entertaining as that was. So. Yeah, we'll see what they do with it this year. I'm sure there'll be some panels they get that I find interesting and check out.
Yeah, that's the only downside is like I still like I'd love to do the Hall H thing, but I love going just I the floor. I like being on the floor. I like going to the booths. Like that's what I like to do. And like you don't get that with Comic Con at home. You know
No.
what I mean? You don't get that with DC fandom online. Like it's
There's not much
that
of an appeal.
yeah, it's an exclusive thing to you got to be there. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not really the same when someone just films. They set like what is someone gonna do? Set up their booth? Sideshow gonna set up the booth and then just walk by and film all the statues that they have sitting out that no one can come see. I mean, it's not the same at all. Like,
Yeah.
not really. And then you also miss out on like the Comic Con exclusive figures and
a
exclusive
ton of those.
statues and things like that. Like, that's what I don't know. It's kind of a shame because like I don't know we'll have to look in to see if any of them are even coming to like because wasn't the Cincinnati one supposed to be coming up?
Yeah, I think
Like,
they're.
we'll have to look into. I'm hoping like one of them, be it Wizard World Columbus or Cincinnati. The Wizard World in Columbus is better than the Cincinnati one here has been. So I'm hoping like at least one of those though will
I would love to go
freaking
to one
open
of
up.
those.
Yeah, like Columbus one's really good. I always have a good time there. So, but question is, guys, what do you think about this? Did you have plans on going to San Diego Comic Con this year? I did not have plans to go this year because, like I said, it's a big event for us to have to do it just based locationally alone, let alone financially. But one of these days, I'd love to make it out that way. Obviously, earliest that could happen would be 2022. But what do you think about this Comic Con at home? Do you think, now that they have officially canceled it, this far in advance, you think they're going to be able to put together a more I don't know, more entertaining and enjoyable overall event? Or do you think too that like maybe Comic Con, even when they can open and do the in person events with Marvel and DC kind of pulling out, maybe doing their own thing, do you think Comic Con's gonna like maybe die down a little bit? Maybe not have as much of a just footprint. What do you think? Let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our final topic here today, we're gonna break down and give our thoughts on the WandaVision finale. First thing I want to say right off the top, and I said this on stream too. If you want to see our kind of initial day of reactions to the finale, that video is up there. That's there. Go watch the stream. It's on there. I just uploaded it as a separate video, so it's there. You can just watch our kind of breakdown of what we saw when we saw it. But now we're gonna go through not necessarily point by point breakdown every minute of the episode by any means, but we're gonna discuss it a little bit more formally this time. And I'm gonna repeat what I said in that just before the finale. I think it was Matt Shackman who was the director and one of the wasn't the writer of every episode. That was Jackie or Jack something. I can't remember. I can't remember her last name. But Matt Shackman was the director of the entire series. And he did an interview just before the finale happened, and he said that there was going to be some people out there who are disappointed with the finale, but it reaches its inevitable conclusion, and he hopes that everyone can kind of will agree about that when it happens. And I personally, having seen the finale, obviously, completely agree with that statement. Where I feel like the show 100% reached its inevitable conclusion. It didn't need to have anything. Didn't need any mutants. Like everyone thought, oh, this is the mutants. This is the time. This is the mutants. Didn't have that. Didn't need that. Engineer was nothing. Literally nothing. And then the cameo, there wasn't one. Like Paul Bettany just before the finale as well was on like Good Morning America, and he literally like confirmed. And I still thought he was just trolling at this point because the finale hadn't happened yet. But he went on Good Morning America and confirmed that he was the cameo he was talking about. Like he was joking about there being someone he always wanted to work with, in that it was himself. Like so that was confirmed that the big cameo, the big actor that Paul Bettany wanted to work with was Paul Bettany. As we saw at the end of the season, or at the end of the thing, White Vision and Vision fight. So that was the whole big Skywalker cameo thing that everyone kept referring to. I'm still curious as to what about the cameo thing. I'm actually curious as to because that's the one thing that people kind of forget here. Like everyone was expecting some Luke Skywalker level cameo, but no one actually ever said that. Like Elizabeth Olsen was doing an interview, and the interviewee, the person conducting the interview rather, literally set up and posed the question like, "Hey, we just saw Mandalorian, and there was a big, cameo at the end with Luke Skywalker. Can we expect anything like that from WandaVision?" And she just said yes. That was it. She didn't elaborate on it. She didn't bring it up. She didn't say, guys, like, call a fucking press conference. There's a huge cameo, bigger than, like, that didn't happen.
No.
So I think it's just something that, just like the engineer, we just kind of blew out of proportion. We made it a thing where realistically, I don't know. But curiously though, my point with this is I'm curious as to what she was actually referring to. Maybe just Evan Peters. I mean, like the only thing that's weird is I think Evan Peters' episode, like episode 4 or 5, whichever one he came in at, I think that episode had already been out when this interview happened. So that's the only thing I thought was kind of odd. But
yeah.
But here's the thing. That's a no-win question for her. What if she says no? If she says no, then everybody's like, oh, well, this probably isn't going to be as good. Like, do I really want to watch? Like, I mean, like, what's she supposed to say in that situation? Like, no, we don't have Professor. Yeah, it's a no-win question. I'm glad that Paul Bettany did what he did. I'm glad that she said what she said. I'm glad that everybody involved with that show did not, what's the word, abuse, did not, I can't think of the word. Anyway, they didn't say that any of the fan speculation was wrong. They didn't come right out and say, no, you guys aren't right, or no, it isn't this, it isn't the other thing, because hopefully this will check people's expectations for shows and things going forward, because it's gotten to the point where everybody guesses every possible scenario out there, and eventually somebody hits on it. So yeah, that one person gets to say, yeah, I was right. But it's almost like a race to try and ruin any of the surprises that are left in shows anymore. It's like, well, this could be this. I mean, my God, we had Mephisto coming in, we had the X-Men coming in, we had it's just
Right.
like
Nightmare, Reed
sure,
Richards, like
yeah,
It is
the
like,
eventually,
list goes
eventually,
on.
eventually somebody's going to be right, but you're also going to hear every possible scenario. So by the time it happens, you will have heard it already, and so it won't be as nobody. To be fair, nobody going into the Mandalorian that I heard said Luke. There probably was somebody out there. I probably just missed it, and luckily for me, I did, because if I had heard Luke ahead of time, I probably would have gone into it and gone, oh wow, that's really cool, but it would not have had the emotional impact and weight that actually seeing Luke Skywalker showed up did.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
So
I theorized, like, logically, like, Luke fits because of the Jedi thing, right? Like, I thought, like, Luke would fit, Ezra Bridger would fit, and then what's his name
Cal
from
Kestis.
Cal Kestis would fit.
Yeah.
No, out of all of those, though, I never would have dreamed it was Luke because Mark Hamill's like 60 years old.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? And that
Sure.
was that was the main reason that, like, to your point, like, no one said it was like gonna be Luke because like everyone just assumed it wouldn't be because how could it be? You know what I mean? No
Right.
one really thought they were gonna de-age, like, or do the CG, whatever they did to bring him in. There's no one thought that would be it. So it was like, while Luke was the safest play, like for them to get a big pop, it was definitely, it was good. It was totally worked out good. But this show, WandaVision, I don't think it didn't need any of that stuff. It didn't need like the gimmick of freaking mutants being the thing. Like it didn't. The purpose of the show was never to introduce Reed Richards or introduce the X-Men or whatever. The purpose of the show was to just showcase Wanda and her grief.
Wanda and Vision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like that's it. Like those other things could have happened, and that's the only thing that like I kind of irks me a bit is that people, like you were saying, like we hear all these theories and like everyone just
None of
like,
them.
everyone theories out every little thing. Like the engineer,
Yeah.
2 sentences happened with this engineer thing, and people blew it, and I jumped on board with it too. I was like, well, who is it? Blah blah. But it's like
Yeah.
literally they said 2 sentences, and like I just like don't like that everyone gets so attached to like these theories in their head and then they're like disappointed by what the show actually gives them when it's like good. Like the show was good. Just because your theories didn't pan out or they didn't do what you inevitably decided you wanted them to do, because that's why you get attached to the theories, is because you get attached to those ideas. You think, well, that would be really cool, and you want that to happen, and then when it doesn't happen, you're disappointed. But that's not really fair for the show. You know
I'll
what
say
I mean?
this. I think that is one of the downsides to serialized television. Now, with the movies, we have entire stories in one chunk. So you weren't able to watch Civil War, the first half hour of Civil War, and then theorize about how the rest of it was going to play out. You saw it all at once. You weren't able to watch the first part of Infinity War and speculate as to how they were going to beat Thanos, or even that they weren't going to beat Thanos in the end. You saw it all play out in over the course of those 2 hours. With WandaVision and these new Marvel series going forward, like this is all. I almost think they might be better served by taking the Netflix approach and dumping all the episodes at once. And then you kind of put it on the viewers to decide how they want to consume it. But at least it's all out there, and you kind of it combats that people making those wild theories that may or may not come true.
None of those theories that people had came true, I feel like.
Not
There were
really.
so
None of
many
the crazy
out
ones
there.
for sure.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, really out there ones. But there's a meme actually I saw on Facebook of that like Captain America where he's like, so you blah blah blah.
yeah.
And it said like, so you had a WandaVision theory that didn't come true.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yep, that's it.
That's a lot
Yep.
of people. That's
Yeah.
a lot of people. And that's the thing, though, the downside to the whole, because I would love, the one thing that I want more than anything with these shows, like Mandalorian included, WandaVision included, they need to be longer, like just a little bit longer. Like I don't like, because that's the problem with dropping all the episodes at once, is everyone talks about it for a week and then we're done. We're not talking about it anymore. With this, they got 9 weeks of that's all anybody was talking about for 9 weeks is what's going to happen next week on WandaVision. Like what this and that. It built momentum. It debuted at like top 35, like in the top 35. It was like 35th worldwide in television program ratings and all that stuff. And then it was able to climb up to the #1 biggest show in the world because of the week by week release. Because hype kept building and building and building for it, and it became this huge thing. If they were dropped everything at once, it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been a big show. It wouldn't it would have been there. People would have talked about it for a week. It would have got good ratings and all that stuff, but they definitely wouldn't have gotten the steamroll effect of it becoming the #1 show in the world. Like as much as I would prefer them all just to drop at once, because I would just like to binge watch the whole thing and call it a day. They won't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even Netflix is going to start not doing that. You know, which is one thing I'm really glad. Like the Snyder Cut is just going to be a damn movie. I really didn't want to wait a month to watch a movie that we pretty much already know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I was just like,
point.
just let me watch the movie. Like you don't break it up just to get. You already have my subscription to HBO Max. Come on, like, Jesus Christ. But anyways, Rick, you being the least MCU fan among us here. Not that you don't like the MCU by any means, but tell me what you thought about the finale here. Did it live up to your expectations? Did you like it? Or just what did you think?
I don't know really what I was expecting. I'll put it that way. It wasn't bad. I didn't walk away from it like, like, wow, that was incredible or anything. I was like, okay, yeah, that was pretty good. And I don't know. I mean, like I said, I didn't really know what to expect. So it wasn't bad. But again, I'm not as well versed in like the MCU and all that sort of stuff. So
do you think that it like Shackman said, do you think it reached its inevitable conclusion, or were you expecting something else to happen?
No, I think it did reach its inevitable conclusion. And I mean, for me, I was satisfied, but at the same time, I thought it was a little underwhelming, honestly. But looking back on it, I guess it really wasn't. So.
Yeah, and that's what I think we were talking about this before on stream, where it's like, I don't know if someone wants to call it underwhelming, that's fine. But I would, in my head canon, I would more describe it as like there wasn't that big thing that happened.
No,
right?
no.
Like
Well,
I think it played out just as it should have played out.
We came out of The Mandalorian with that thing, and you just almost like expected it at that point, where you're like, this is gonna have something like that too, and it just didn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's like, I don't know if like saying underwhelming, like I don't know if I would consider that like a fair assessment, because that to me implies that you were expecting more. But kind of like I said before, like I don't know if that's really fair for the show.
Yeah,
You
I don't
know
know
what I mean?
what I was expecting.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I mean, I could totally see why, especially if you had like expectations, like that, that's like that big Luke Skywalker cameo is going to happen,
Sure.
and then it doesn't, and then you go into, you're like, oh, well, this is just kind of, I don't know, expected. Because I would say, if anything, everything was kind of just, it was whelming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't underwhelming.
Wasn't
I was
over-
very whelmed.
Yeah,
I wasn't overwhelmed with anything, and I wasn't
that's a
underwhelmed.
good way to put it.
It was just whelm. So I don't know. John, do you have any what's your first overall
I loved
impressions of
it.
it?
I
I knew you
absolutely
did.
loved it. I mean, we talked about this when we did the first episode review. We talked about, and I talked about how much I loved those first 2 episodes, and I said ultimately it's going to come down to how they stick the landing. And I was really worried after episode 7, when we get it was Agatha all along, and I thought, oh man, they're gonna cop out, and they're gonna do the tried and true, a villain was doing something bad to Wanda and caused all this, and none of this was Wanda's fault, and they're going to absolve Wanda because it was Agatha all along. And I like that they didn't, that it really wasn't Agatha all along. As much as Agatha played a part in the hijinks that happened while they were in it, ultimately it was Wanda that was responsible, and I'm glad they didn't cop out on that. And so that, and then, the ending, I'm sure we'll get to it, but was significantly overwhelming for me just in the from the emotional impact of the ending. And I mean, as much as people might want to say this wasn't, this wasn't Infinity War where half the population got dusted. This wasn't Endgame where they brought everybody back and defeated Thanos. But this also wasn't a Avengers level movie. This wasn't a Civil War movie where you get a schism between two factions in the MCU. This was a Ant-Man. This was a Captain Marvel. This was a look at a singular character in the MCU and what in developing that character more, giving that character her own story or their own story in Wanda and Vision. And I know that people, again, I go back to, I've said it a million times before, I think the pandemic had people so starved for MCU content and entertainment that I think people put more weight on the show than the show deserved to have put on it. Because I think ultimately, for me, I think the show was done excellent. I think it was a great show. I loved it from the start to the end, and I wouldn't have changed anything. And I still think, ultimately, it warrants its place in the MCU because you do have some significant. Monica gets introduced. Monica's got powers. Monica is going to play a role in the MCU going forward. You get Vision. A Vision returns to the MCU in a fashion by the time we get to the end of it. So there's a number of things that happen that expand the MCU in general and work to continue the overall story of the MCU. But it's definitely much more focused on one character or one family of the MCU.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was the one thing. Your camera froze, by the way. The one thing that I didn't want to happen was a cookie cutter ending where everything's fine and Wanda just gets off scot-free for everything she did, right? Like that was the one thing I didn't want to happen, which they didn't. I kind of said before that I wanted there to be some big Shakespearean kind of tragedy to it all, and where they didn't really go that far into it, they also didn't do the cookie cutter. They really landed somewhere in the middle of cookie cutter and tragedy. You know what I mean? I was expecting her just to be just in the end, the kids die, Vision dies, she gets nothing, and she's just pretty much where she was at the beginning, having now had 4,000 plus people hostage. So just making the situation worse, right?
Yeah.
But at this point, we're left with it I don't know, just acceptance, really. She accepts everything, and then she becomes Scarlet Witch, truly, and the costume looked great. Everyone thought that costume wouldn't work in live action, and it totally did. It looked
they did
great.
it well.
Looked really good.
Better than the action figure we saw at the store the other day.
Yeah, that was an old. That was
Yeah,
a
that's
vintage figure,
she.
that looked more like the Wanda on Halloween, the Sokovian fortune teller one.
Mhm.
No, but it was great. And I think my favorite part of the episode was the White Vision stuff when him and Vision had the whole Theseus debate.
I
That
request elaboration.
Yeah, that was the best. I don't know. I like that part because a lot of people have said that and I do see where they're coming from in this, where they really felt like the show was super unique and loved it all the way up, but then the end was just kind of your typical Marvel fare. There was a fight, and then they were fighting. Vision was fighting Vision, and then CGI battle, and yay! It was true. It is kind of what it was. But I liked the Wanda using her powers thing against, Agatha, and then with the runes. I don't know how she all of a sudden learned how to do the runes.
Yeah, cast the runes.
But either way, she did it. So I mean, I liked it, even if it wasn't explained. Because the only thing, my answer for that too, for anyone out there who's just well, how did she learn how to do that? Because Agatha's literally sitting there saying, you don't know how to do magic, essentially, right? You don't know what you're doing. You're dangerous, whatever. But see, she also says that the Scarlet Witch is able to perform magic without free of incantation, as I think what the direct quote from Agatha was. So realistically, the runes are there just because she thought about it. You know what I mean? She pretty much can materialize any spell just by thinking about it. That's what literally Agatha described Scarlet Witch being able to do. So that's how the runes were there. She just thought, I need to put these runes up so that I'm the only person who can use magic here. So she did. Like, she
Yeah.
didn't have to know what the runes meant or what they looked like. It's fucking magic, and she can just do it because she's a Scarlet Witch, and that's what they said that she
Well,
can do. Like,
she knew what they looked like. I mean, Agatha pointed them out to her. She showed them the
yeah, I mean,
runes in
she
that
did
room
see
Yeah,
them
down
too.
there. So,
Yeah,
kind of
so
showed her.
at that point, all Wanda had to do was recreate what was in that room,
yeah,
and bam, you're done. She's toast.
yeah. I mean, even that too.
Wanda even thanked her for like
Yeah.
showing her the runes, like,
Oh, yeah.
sarcastically, obviously, but
Well,
yeah.
no, and that's why she totally here's one thing though too, is she puts her under the spell to make her be Agnes, right? But then she takes down the hex. So,
That confused me.
and then Agatha doesn't actually have a house there. So if she even is still under a spell to making like her think that she's just Agnes to continue on being, where did she go?
That's what
She doesn't actually have a house. Does she just go to Ralph Boner's house? Like,
Ralph Boner.
you know what I mean? It's that is kind of, I don't know. It's the only thing that didn't make sense.
She created a house on the land that Vision had left for her. I mean, that's my simplistic, that she owned that plot of land, so she manifested a house on that plot, and that's where Agnes is going to live. I mean, that's my overly simplistic answer to how they wrap up the Agatha thing.
No, you're probably right. I think.
Well, they show her leaving the plot of land, and it's just a plot of land.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure, but I mean, she does it on her way out. She
I think it's
twinkle fingers back behind her as she's flying out.
You froze again, by the way. I think unless you're just being very still.
Yeah. You'd be a good ventriloquist.
Yeah. I think if anything too, maybe we're just reading too much into that part, and where like it's just a mental spell, and so she's just trapped in the mindset of Agnes. Doesn't necessarily have to stay in Westview. Like, Agnes can go wherever she wants. She's just stuck as Agnes as opposed to Agatha. You know what I mean?
True.
I guess that's the way I would like, because that she kept her. If she ever needs help with something, she'll go and get her.
She knows where to find her.
Yeah, like she'll go and get her. Because I think, which kind of leads me to a good question for you guys. Do you think we're gonna see Agatha again, or do you think
Maybe.
it's over?
Like in another MCU.
Sure.
Yeah, like in Doctor Strange 2 or something.
You could.
I don't know that we'll see her that soon, but I mean, we'll see her again. They left her on the board for a reason, so I definitely think the fan reaction to Catherine Hahn's portrayal was
She did good.
big enough that I think that they'll find a way to use her eventually.
I could totally see him
I mean,
doing the whole mentor thing. Not
this is-
so like
this is-
mentory, but
well, and this is also like, I mean, Scarlet Witch Wanda has now put Agatha in kind of a prison of sorts. And so, this is also it's well known throughout the MCU, throughout the world now, that Scarlet Witch had done this to this town. There's 4,000 people in this town that have 4,000 families out there and friends out there that they'll tell what happened and how Scarlet Witch did this. And so, who's to say maybe a villain later on down the road doesn't go, well, wait a minute, Agatha Harkness was there. She was part of this. Where's Agatha Harkness? Goes and finds her and finds a way to undo Wanda's spell, and then teams up with Agatha as a threat later on. I could see a revenge aspect to that happening later on by somebody undoing what Wanda did to Agatha, and Agatha wanting some measure of revenge for it.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I could definitely see too. Like, that was one of the things I liked about the show, was that Agatha, Agatha was a bad guy, but she was also mainly like, she wanted the power for herself, sure, but she was mainly just like, you're dangerous, Wanda. Like,
Yeah.
she was like, you're dangerous. Like,
Is she though? Like, we're getting all this information from the character that's trying to take. That's like me saying that, my boss doesn't do a good job, you should make me the director, or, the person in charge. It's like
I would argue that she's dangerous because she doesn't know how to control her powers. I mean,
That's
look
what
what
I thought.
happened. She put 4,000 people and took them hostage and made them play out, like mind control 4,000 people, locked kids in their rooms. Like,
but is she just
dangerous.
using what happened as an excuse to try and take the power? Because she didn't come there she wasn't drawn there because of what's the right word? She didn't the injustice of what was happening to those people. She
Oh,
was
yeah,
drawn
yeah.
there because of the power. She
Oh, yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
come and get the power that was going on. And then once she found out what was actually going on, she was like, "Hey, wait a minute. I feel like she was pretty bad."
Yeah, she's definitely
I
a
don't
bad guy. She's
Mm.
definitely a bad guy. Like, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
But they didn't make her a mustachy, trilly bad guy. Kind of like how they went,
Sure.
with Hayward, they kind of just did.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
he wasn't really a bad guy. He was just a dick. But like, they kind of in the end just made him just be like the dick suit.
Ultra.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and it was kind of like, okay, we've seen that a million times, but
That was the one
like,
part I was a little disappointed in, because you made a good point the last show that we talked about, where he actually had a moment of like real human compassion, where he let Wanda in to see Vision's body.
yeah,
He could never let Vision go. I mean, his job is to hold the Vision's body, hold this weapon of mass destruction, and analyze it for the government. But at the same time, too, he had this moment of real human compassion where he let Wanda in to at least hopefully give her some closure and say goodbye. But then you get to this episode, and so he kind of redeems himself for, kind of the dickish things he's done up until this point. But then you get to this episode, he just goes ultra dick because he, tries to shoot the kids and then continues shooting Monica after he's already hit her 3 or 4 times. He continues
Yeah.
loading until the clip's empty. And then he decides he's going to run him over. I mean, the guy just went off the deep end.
He did.
yeah.
He
Well,
was-
then even
I
prior
was
to
a little
that, he's like
disappointed.
talking shit to Jimmy. Like,
Yeah.
just like no one's gonna believe anything that happened here. Like, I'm gonna be looked at as a hero because we're gonna blame this whole thing on Wanda. Like, they're gonna think Wanda's the one who made White Vision, not me. Like, all this, it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, just give it a rest, my man. Like, you were cool. Like, just last episode, you looked like you were gonna be cool in the end, but nah, he just ended up being.
Yeah, he just ended up being a dick.
Yeah, and I think too, he knew the kids weren't real, so like I don't really care that he went to shoot the kids, but the fact that you just made a good point, he just kept shooting Wanda. Or not Wanda, but Monica. Like,
yeah.
just
Right.
kept, like, as soon as you think he would have stopped.
Like, he knew what he was doing.
But no, like, Monica jumps in front of him and starts taking the hits, and he just keeps going. Like,
Yeah.
that's the dick part. That's the evil part. Shooting the fake kids, that's not evil. But shooting your coworker repeatedly, that's evil. Like,
Let's be
that's
clear.
kind of
I
evil.
think shooting fake kids is pretty bad.
But they're fake. They're not
For the
real.
record.
Like, it's
But
not,
they
I
were
guess it's
real
not
in that
real.
in that moment. They were real. He
Yeah, but they
doesn't know
weren't
that they're
real.
not real.
He knew they weren't real. He watched WandaVision. They watched the kids be born
But
and
he
turn
doesn't know
10
that
like
he
a
doesn't
day
know
later.
that they weren't. He doesn't know that she doesn't have the power to create life, or that she create. I mean, they are
They
and they
weren't
were
real.
real to an extent.
They weren't. They knew they weren't real. He knew they weren't real. Like, they weren't real to begin with. They're gone. They ain't real. That's not the big
Are
deal.
they though? Are they though?
Yeah, because I think that actually is Mephisto fucking with her.
Really?
Because I think it's, or something like that. Because I think that part is like obviously what's going to tie into Multiverse of Madness. Obviously, we just jumped to the end where in the post credit scene where Wanda's going through the dark hole.
The second post credit.
The second post credit scene.
If you didn't know that there were two, there is.
Yeah.
Go back
Yeah,
and
right.
watch all the way until the show stops
Yeah.
running, because
Yeah, so in
Somebody-
that though, she's going through the dark hole and Tommy, the kid, yells like, "Mom, help!" Whatever. I think that is like a Mephisto or a nightmare or something, some dark magic related thing from the Darkhold, trying to manipulate her. Trying to do like gonna make her think that it's Tommy asking for help. Like, you just gotta do this. I'm trapped here, and like, but really, it's gonna be she fucking unlocks a door for something else. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what that is, personally. That just what makes the most sense to me because the kid isn't real. So how could the kid be communicating in any way? Probably because it's
Why
somebody
isn't he? Why
impersonating the
isn't he
kid.
real?
The show told you it wasn't real.
No, it didn't. I mean, she
It's
altered reality. She was able
only
to
with that spell
reconstruct the
inside
entire.
the hex, though. It was only inside the hex.
Yeah, like that's how.
But it
Vision
was
didn't
real.
exist
It wasn't
outside of-
imaginary. It wasn't fake. She was literally able to create. I mean, Vision was able. Her vision that she created was able to fight the real Vision that got brought in from outside. I mean, they are real. They
They're
may be
spells, though. They're not
manifestations that she
real.
created, but they're not imaginary. They're not fake. They're not.
They are.
They're
They're-
not. They
They're
don't. They have
constructs. It's like Green Lantern
corporeal-
constructs. It's literally all it is.
Except
It's
they're not
only
real.
real
They can
there.
think for themselves, and they can.
Yeah, but
though?
that's only with the hex. Like they were only real inside the anything that was inside the hex is real as real can be.
So if you take a human to outer space, are they no longer real? I mean, just
Well,
because
no,
they're
because
confined
they're a
within an
carbon-based being. These things were
Well, these
not
beings were-
carbon-based beings.
Sure, they were.
Ooh, that's a good argument.
No,
for
they
that.
weren't. As soon as the hex went down, they deteriorated. They started
As
breaking
soon as a
away.
human goes to space, they die. They deteriorate. They like.
No, that's completely different. These things weren't real. They were literally make-believe things.
Let us know
They
in the
weren't
comments
real.
what you think.
Like they were. They as
I
soon as
don't
the
know.
hex goes
They're-
away,
they're
I don't
which
view
is
them as
just
real.
magic. It's
I'm not-
all magic. They disappear.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of the show. Like that's why it was when they're not real. None of them are real.
It's not real.
That's why Vision isn't here anymore. they're gone. They're all gone.
What do you think is going to happen with White Vision?
I don't
'Cause
know.
he was real.
He'll come back at some point,
Yeah.
but he's not going to be Vision. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he's going to be like this new thing. That's why I think they're going to go that route with, just like they did in the comics, where he has all the memories of Vision, but he's not Vision because he's a new thing now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
So that's actual physical Vision's body then, like the
It
original.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't technically say and show that. Well, no, they actually did that. They said that like you are. I think Paul Bettany's. I think the fake Vision said that you are like the real Vision, like in physical form, but not in mental form. Where he was kind of he was a different thing. Like he was an imaginary version of Vision, and neither were Vision, but both were Vision. That's why that was a good scene because it was just that was good stuff. But yeah. So those those things aren't real.
I was going to say, yeah, we'll have to agree to disagree on that one because I think it certainly felt real, and I think it was just as real for Wanda as it was for anybody else.
Yeah, but it was because of the hex, though. That's why as soon as the hex is gone, nothing is a thing anymore.
Well, I mean, as soon
Even
as
if
the
she
universe
can
is gone,
create it,
nobody
then,
here
like,
exists
that's-
either. So, like, I
Yeah,
mean,
but
are
that's
we
already
all-
a thing. Like Wanda
Not real.
created the thing. So like
I understand, but just because she creates a thing doesn't mean that the things that are inside it aren't real. Like I understand they went away and they went away, but that doesn't mean that they didn't exist, that they weren't there, that they didn't have agency and an effect on the people around them while they were there. I mean, they had physical forms, they fought, they had interactions, they talked, they felt
they were
emotion,
real
like-
inside the hex. I agree with you there.
exactly.
But
So
the hex can't. The
so
hex
he was
itself
shooting.
is
So he
not
was shooting
real.
real kids. He was shooting real kids in the hex. That's
In the
I mean, that's what I'm
hex.
saying.
In the
If he
hex,
had-
they were real, but they weren't real.
If he had hit them with bullets, they would have died. Wanda would have had to watch her kids die because he was shooting kids. Like, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter if you know that they're, not going to survive outside of an area or not. When you shoot kids, and you're a dick. I mean,
Oh, it's
that's
still a
about
dick
as
move.
much as you can
Yeah.
get.
It's a dick move whether they're real or fake. I mean, you don't shoot kids, but I don't consider him evil for shooting imaginary beings. It's like if it's imaginary. Like, you know what I mean? He's just a dick. You know what I mean? Like
He is just a dick.
he was just a dick.
If you have a kid and they bring you their stuffed teddy bear and it's their best friend in the world and you proceed to rip that bear's head off,
Or
you're
shoot
a
it.
dick. Regardless of whether or not that bear is real
yeah.
or exists or has a life, you're still evil. You're evil for doing
But
that.
it's not
You're
a
evil.
magical
Yeah.
thing, construct. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
Who knows?
I was going to say something else. I forget it now, but yeah.
Okay, well,
We'll
where do you this is what well, no, I feel like we covered most of everything anyway. I'm trying to think. What did we miss? Oh yeah, the Pietro thing. So obviously he was just
Boner.
Ralph Boner. Like what? Elaborate on how you felt about that, because I know you said before that it would be kind of useless. Like, why bring Evan Peters in if he's not gonna do that?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love the show, I'm really disappointed that they did that. That they chose to do that, because I feel like, I mean, we've said it before, it's just a giant troll to the audience. Like, why bring in that actor from that franchise to play that role? I'm assuming they did it as an homage to what came before, to the X-Men universe or franchise. I'm guessing that when they finally get asked about it, that'll be why they cast him. But it felt like a big, just kind of like, because like you said last week, I mean, that was the cliffhanger for an episode. Like, the cliffhanger was, oh, here's Quicksilver from the X-Men franchise showing up, playing her brother. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's this all mean? Like, it was done very intentionally and very knowingly on their part as to what it would mean to the audience, to much of the audience, to see that actor show up in that role.
I think
So
Yeah, no,
threw a lot of people off, I feel like.
well, and that's the thing. Like, I said this on stream too, because I was watching, like, I use the example here because I saw John Campea talking about it. And he said that he used Tobey Maguire being cast as like Uncle Ben in a Spider-Man movie as like an example of like that's what this was like. It's like a cool thing that fans have always wanted, like something to happen. Like you bring Christian Bale in for a cameo in a Batman movie, that kind of thing. But the argument that I would make with this is that this is an entirely different thing. This was explicitly set up to just cheaply throw you off, because he was set up as Quicksilver. He showed up and he was the cliffhanger of the episode. It wasn't that we knew. If we would have known that he was playing Ralph Boner and saw that Agatha put a spell on him to trick Wanda into thinking it's Quicksilver, then that's the equivalent of Tobey Maguire playing Uncle Ben, because we know that it's not Quicksilver. This was set up for 4 or 5 episodes for you to not know if this was really Quicksilver or not. Like that's the difference, It's not like someone coming in for a quick cameo as like an homage to that world. They literally did it just to blatantly misdirect people, which isn't
Yeah.
necessarily like a bad thing, but I could totally understand why someone would be like upset or disappointed or just downright kind of angry about it, because like it's a cheap trick, like, because they didn't just tell us what it was. You know what I mean? It's not that they needed to, but at the same time, I don't know. I get why people would be upset about it, because they string you along and deliberately make you think that this is Quicksilver in some capacity, whether it's X-Men Quicksilver or something. You know what I mean? It wasn't just Evan Peters doing a fun, quick cameo. Like, they made you think he was fucking Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Like, plain and
Yeah.
simple.
I
You
mean,
know?
they gave him Quicksilver's powers. They just
Yeah, everything.
yeah,
They
it
kept
just-
making you think, like, they kept telling you that it is Quicksilver more so than doing something fun. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. If he had, even I would even go so far as say I would have been more accepting of it if he had showed up and said, "I'm Pietro," and said like things that made her believe that he was, but didn't have the powers. Like, if he didn't have the powers, then it'd be like, well, why don't you have your powers? And it was left ambiguous. Like we had more the audience, if the audience had more information or at least more clues that he wasn't Pietro, other than because using the same actor makes you just start questioning, like you said, like plus everybody's theories about the multiverse and how it's going to factor in. There are announcements ahead of time about the multiverse coming off of the Spider-Man movie where they introduced the concept of the multiverse to, it makes it all sets it up for this to be more than what it ultimately ended up being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the only thing I quote unquote take issue with was just how they executed it, because
Yeah.
they deliberately did it. Like they knew exactly what they were doing by casting. Because none of that would have happened if it was Aaron Taylor Johnson who showed up, and
Yeah, no.
they could have very well just made it Aaron Taylor Johnson because it was a witch did it. Like they could just
Yeah.
like they
I was thinking
Wanda
about that.
manifested Vision and kids. So Agatha would have been perfectly fine for them to say that, well, she just created an illusion of freaking
Pietro.
like of the real one, of Aaron Taylor Johnson, and then just did it that way. Like
Or they could have cast an actor that wasn't the only other actor in the world that's played Pietro.
yeah, that too.
They
Yeah.
could
Like,
have cast anybody else in that town.
mhm.
Could have been anybody else, but they, that's like I said, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's explicitly it because of all the tie-ins and then them not being more upfront about it. It was a cheap trick in the end. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad that it's not Quicksilver. And I'm not mad that it wasn't the X-Men and all that stuff. I just think it was a cheap way of
Throwing people off.
misdirecting.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I just think it's like it's fine that they did it. Doesn't mean it's not a cheap trick. Like, so, but in the end, like I said, I'm fine with it. Like, I didn't think Monica would get her powers, though. I think we forgot to talk about this when it happened. I was actually kind of surprised that they gave her the powers in the series in general. Just kind of talking generalities for the season. I kind of figured they would have waited till season 2, or not season 2, but Captain Marvel 2. The other thing is, though, too, with this, or I said that I was kind of glad that the thing didn't end with like a cookie cutter thing. You saw in the scene here with like when Dottie comes up in particular, and I kind of touched on this before, where she comes up and I mean they all come up and they're like telling Wanda, please stop, like you doing this, whatever,
Yeah.
and whatever. But Dottie's like, can you please just like let my daughter out of her room? Like I just want to see her. Like so, like
Right.
literally this entire time, like kids have been locked in rooms, like people have been locked in rooms, like whatever. Like this shit was wrong to say the least.
Oh, yeah,
What she
definitely.
did. So that's what honestly made the scene at the very end where Monica is like, they'll never know what you gave up for them. Like, bitch, I don't think they give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like they're fake ass like she literally put 4,000 people, held them hostage, locked kids in their rooms. Like they don't give a shit that she had to get rid of their fake family.
That's exactly.
Like that's absurd. I can't believe they
That was
left that
stupid.
line in there for her to say. It made Monica seem like the stupidest character in the world. Like never know what they had. Like they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they want their lives back. What are you talking about? So that's why I'm glad that she's on the run though, and they didn't just do the Agatha all along and like you said, like Wanda just gets off scot-free. Like at least, despite Monica's stupid line, she's actually on the run. She is in hiding. Like they implied the fact that she was in hiding at the very end with the post-credit scene. So like there's that, because that line just like kind of was just like, are you really? Like they even showcase, like I said, with Dottie and all these stuff, like these people were not having a good time.
No.
They were not having a good time at all. And so yeah, I just thought that was kind of stupid. Did you have any like opinion on that one, John? That line of hers?
I mean, I understand why they threw it in there. It was because they were adding even more weight, even more emphasis to what Wanda had given up. But you're right in that I don't think the town would have really cared ultimately. The other thing that's, I mean, it's not here or there necessarily, but it's also curious how we don't have a real good idea of what kind of time frame this whole event took place. Was this a matter of days? Was this a matter of weeks, months? How long had these people actually been held hostage for? How long had they, you would think it's probably only been a few days. So not that it changes what she's done in any real way, but the shorter amount of time, I guess, the less impactful it was on their lives. But yeah, it was I didn't even think about the line when she said it because I was just so wrapped up in like actually what Wanda had given up from me as the viewer, and as Darcy said, I'm invested. I was invested in those characters, and the whole end just emotionally was the gut punch the inevitable gut punch that you knew was coming, and it wasn't just a punch; it was
A kick in
multiple
the
stab wounds, and then turning the knife and turning the knife and turning the knife because it just
out.
went on and on and on.
I actually didn't get very emotional about it.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I did.
Like, surprisingly.
It
'Cause
was, it was
I cried, like, not cry, like, bawl my eyes, but, like, I'll tear up from, like, stupid stuff in a lot of movies.
Oh,
Like
me too.
like,
I'm not afraid to admit it.
yeah, like, it'll happen, but, like, this, like, a scene like you're saying, like, it is explicitly there to tug on your heartstrings, and, like, yeah, I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why, it just didn't have that effect on me for some reason.
Now
Like,
Luke Skywalker coming back though.
that was pretty good.
yeah.
Like, that made me pretty teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Like,
Kevin Smith, man, he got real emotional about it.
about WandaVision?
Yeah, I
think
told you he
remember
posted
saying
that picture of himself crying. It was just like it was beautiful.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't take me, like, not being emotional about it as a bad thing, because like, I know what they were trying to do. It's just, it didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't hit me like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought it was good. I think, like, in the end, it did reach its inevitable conclusion. Like,
Yeah.
like, I don't think they needed to do anything else. I don't really think anything was missed. Is there anything that you, like, wanted to see out of it that didn't happen?
Not for me. I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't have changed much with it. It worked like I said, but my expectations for it, I think, were a lot more subdued than a lot of other people's. Like, I like the Mephisto character, and it's, obviously it's one of the big bads of the Marvel universe, but like, there were people that were all in on, like, I couldn't open up Instagram or Facebook or Twitter without seeing something Mephisto, like, every week after the episode came out. Like, oh, was Mephisto's the cat? Mephisto's the cat. Like, just calm down. Like, if it's Mephisto, they'll tell us it's Mephisto. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. I don't know. Like, I all the different theories and stuff. Like, if anything, I almost wish that I could. I feel like I need to go on a social media kind of break when these, like, I'm wondering if I shouldn't try and go on one when Falcon and Winter Soldier comes out, because like I don't know if I'll make it every week seeing like everybody say, oh, it's the Red Skull's back doing this. Like, I can just see it now. Like, people are gonna hop on every little thing and be like, oh, it's this doing this, and it's like, just let the story play out. Like, have fun with it. They're going to tell you the story that they want, and like, I don't know.
That's the thing. I think the Falcon and Winter Soldier is not gonna be that kind of show. Like, I don't think it's gonna draw as much speculation week to week. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna have that mystery element to it. I think it's gonna be real straightforward. Just not like it's bad. Like, I think we were saying this on stream. Like, I think it's gonna be more of like a run of the mill Marvel kind of thing. And then you made the point where it's like, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, just being able to watch something, just enjoy it,
And not constantly speculating
Yeah,
over. Yeah.
exactly. And so that's not really a bad thing. I really do think that that's what Falcon and the Soldier is gonna be. I don't think there's gonna be much to theorize. Like, I think it's gonna be. I'm just talking out my ass right here. I have never seen the show. I don't know. It could be a huge mystery-driven show, but it just seems like it's gonna be like you got your good guys and your bad guys, and we're just there we go. Like, as opposed to like, this was explicitly designed to be a mystery kind of thing. You're not supposed to know what's going on
Right.
until the end. Like,
That's a good point. I actually hadn't thought of that. That's a good point, that this show was kind of established as a mystery, that it lent itself to speculation after each episode. So maybe I'm being a little, I'm just being a little overly harsh, I guess. But part of I think part of it was just the certainty with which people were saying like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen.
Oh yeah,
So
and everybody. That's on us as fans for sure. We all blew the stuff way out of proportion.
Oh, for sure.
Like instead of just patiently waiting until next week and just accepting whatever the show is for what it is, no, we spent more time thinking about what could happen as opposed to just watching it. You know what I mean? Like I think there's
yeah,
people out there who spent more time thinking about WandaVision than the full runtime of WandaVision. You know what I mean? Which
yeah,
isn't really a bad thing. It's just you set yourself up for disappointment in a lot of ways when you do that because
Yeah, because if it doesn't happen the way you picture it happening, it's like it disappoints you, just like you said.
yeah, or like you feel like it wasn't good. Well, like your idea was better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing that's like the same can be said for like when you fan cast actors and stuff, right? It's like it's all like you're picturing the character in your head, like so like like I always said like Chris Pine would make a great Hal Jordan. He'd make a great Hal Jordan the way I'm picturing Hal Jordan, but someone might write Hal Jordan in a completely different way, and Chris Pine would be absolutely the wrong person for it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's the same concept. Like everyone who wanted Mephisto had their own idea of what Mephisto even was. You know what I mean? Mephisto, if he ever does make an appearance, could still disappoint all of those people because they're not portraying Mephisto the same way they're imagining him being portrayed. Like, look at freaking Dormammu in Doctor Strange. Dormammu was nothing like Dormammu, like in the comics. Like even in the Spider-Man cartoon, like he was nothing like your classic Dormammu character. Like he was kind of, but like not really. He didn't even look remotely the same. I don't know. They always tend to do their own thing. So I feel like this scene, though, this is really the last thing I think we haven't touched on with the scroll. It was obviously Nick Fury, right? That she's referring to. Like
sure.
an old
An
friend
old
of your
friend of
mom. Like
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. That would make sense.
That's what I figured. Because I figured this was do you think we'll see Monica in the Secret Avengers show then? Or the Secret Invasion show
Secret
rather?
Invasion. Yeah,
I
yeah,
I think
definitely.
yeah. I'm thinking
Interesting.
I
that's setting
thought
that up more
I
than Captain Marvel.
I thought when she transformed into the scroll here, I thought that was going to be. I thought Sam Jackson was going to walk in off the other side of the stage, and
That
that
would
was
have
going to be
been good.
the Luke moment that they had talked about for the series. I thought
That
that
should
he
have
was just going to
happened.
walk off the stage, walk off on the other side, and say, "Hey, look, we need you, or we're doing this, or whatever."
Yeah.
Because I mean, basically, that's what I mean. I guess they left it open ended enough that if for some reason they don't want to end up using her in the Secret Invasion show, they can put her in something else. But that definitely is the very strong implication they gave, is that that's where she's going to show up next.
Yeah. That's where my headspace was because that's why I think maybe they gave her powers in this because like initially, like I said, I thought like she'd probably get them in Captain Marvel too, but if they're going to introduce her with her powers in this, then she probably could be a little bit more useful in the Secret Invasion arc that they're doing, especially since they're not doing the Secret Invasion from the comics. So
Yeah,
she would probably fit in there. I don't know. It just seemed to make a logical sense that she would go there as opposed to Captain. I'm sure she'd still probably show up in Captain Marvel too, but like I said, I figured she would have been more of a central character in that. But since they gave her powers and everything, like I think they probably have more plans for her in the Disney Plus realm of things. So,
yeah.
is there anything else that? Well, I guess with the final post credit scene, the last thing that I'll just add to it is I think that like obviously I think this sets up that like Wanda is going this because Elizabeth Olsen herself has said like WandaVision tease up her character for Multiverse of Madness. Like so obviously I feel like she's explicitly referring to this scene. So I think what is going to happen here, theory time, is this is kind of like what I said with the whole Tommy reaching out to her when she hears the kid's voice and everything. No, it's gone. I think her experimenting and going through with the Darkhold is going to be like the problem in Multiverse of Madness. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's how that's going to tie in. And like I said before too, I think I said it on stream. Like, I think Doctor Strange is gonna like if there's this whole thing in the Darkhold that Agatha referred to that has like the lore of the Scarlet Witch in it, where like she's prophesized to destroy the world or whatever. Pretty sure Doctor Strange knows about that too, being the Sorcerer Supreme. So I think it's like kind of a twofold thing. Like, based on these events, Doctor Strange learns that Wanda is the Scarlet Witch, probably seeks her out himself, I would imagine. Elsewise, her doing the stuff with the Darkhold, maybe someone like your Mephisto or your Nightmare or whatever is trying to trick her with Tommy and her kids, so like they end up maybe she can manifest the kids for real, but like it's the kind of more like in the comics with it both they are real, but they're a part of Mephisto. Like, what I mean? Maybe it's something like that. Who knows? I don't think Wanda's gonna be like the villain of Doctor Strange 2, but I think she might be like an antagonist. Like, she might be the catalyst of something that causes the madness. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think she's gonna be, because she's not evil. You know what I mean? That's what I was trying to, kind of what I was meaning with like Hayward, right? Like, he was just a dick. He wasn't necessarily evil. I mean, you could argue, even though he's trying to shoot kids, like it's a pretty evil thing to do, whether or not they're real or not, whatever. That's fine. I still think he's just more of a dick. And like, even with Wanda, she may have put 4,000 people in mind control and all this stuff, but she didn't have like the intent to do that. You know what I mean? It just kind of happened. She doesn't have.
Didn't she?
It didn't. It didn't happen with evil intent.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? It happened because she couldn't control her powers. Like, she didn't even know. Now, granted, as she's talking with Pietro, she does become self-aware of it all. It doesn't really do anything to stop it. So she is selfish, but she's not evil. You know what I mean? She's going to do, like, obviously she's going to do whatever she can to try to get her kids, theoretically. Like, you know what I mean? So, and that's why I think like, it's going to be some bad stuff. But so I can see her being an antagonist, a catalyst of some bad stuff, but I don't think she's going to go like full villain. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Would you guys got anything else you want to add? Do you think what do you think about Doctor Strange 2 in her next appearance?
I don't know. I don't. It's Doctor Strange's movie, so I'd be surprised if she was heavily involved. I
That's
think
what I'm
she'll,
saying.
she'll show up. I mean, Civil War was a unique movie in that it was a Captain America movie, but it really was almost like an Avengers 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of another MCU film where they had I mean, I could see her playing like the Scarlett Johansson Black Widow part that she played in Iron Man 2, like that kind of role, like not a main. I just think it's, since it's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, obviously she'll have a role, and she said that she's in it. I don't know. They didn't title it Doctor Strange and Wanda: The Multiverse of Madness.
No.
They kept it just Doctor Strange 2. So I'm gonna, I'm not ready to go all in and say that she's like the bad guy or the antagonist for him for this yet, but we'll see.
The only reason I mainly think that, though, is because when they announced Doctor Strange 2, they announced it with Wanda being a part of it. Like, she was there on stage when Scott Derrickson came out and said, and Kevin Feige even, they said, we're doing Doctor Strange 2, and it's going to feature the Scarlet Witch. And then she came out on stage with them. She's been a part of it since when Scott Derrickson was still attached to the damn thing. And then they've been filming Doctor Strange now for a few months, and she's still there filming. Like, she's been there.
So you think
the
she's going to play a
entire
pretty
time.
prominent role?
Yeah, I think she's going to be in a pretty solid amount, because normally, if someone has a very small role, they can get that done in a week, 2 weeks. Like, she's been in London filming Doctor Strange since they started filming Doctor Strange. Like, so I don't know. I think she's going to be almost like a buddy cop kind of situation with them. Like, I don't think that they're like just that much screen time for both of them. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be more than Tony Stark and Spider-Man, right? Far more than that. Like, I think it's gonna be more like akin to a Black Widow thing, but like I think there's gonna be some definite interplay with it because I really do think that she's gonna be like the catalyst to it all in some way, or at least play a part in it. If it's not the whole thing, like maybe her Darkhold experimentation here, and someone like maybe the combination of that with whatever Doctor Strange is up to. Maybe that they just like kind of connect. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just
Yeah.
talking out my ass. We know nothing. Like, we know
Speculation,
absolutely
purely.
nothing. Like, and oh yeah, and then the fact that she said that this tees up her character for Doctor Strange 2, that's what makes me think, okay, well, like antagonist stuff. You're going through the Darkhold, and this tees up your appearance. That's where I'm gonna head with spaces with it. But in the end, I thought it was good. I
Yeah.
liked it.
It was good.
So still looking
Yeah.
forward to Loki.
If this is the quality that we can expect from these MCU series, I won't be canceling Disney Plus for a long, long time.
No, for sure. Like, yeah, like after the Mandalorian, this, and then now we got Falcon Winter Soldier in like 2 weeks. So Falcon Winter Soldier used to be my most anticipated until that Loki trailer, and then that became my most anticipated. So, but I still really very excited to see Falcon Winter Soldier. So, but right after that, we'll have Black Widow, and then Loki, and then maybe Black Widow.
Yeah.
Maybe might get delayed again. So we shall see. But let's wrap this up here, then, guys. Rick, where can everybody find you online?
Find me on Instagram, Sir Rick Metz. That's RIKMETZ. Come look at my stupid pictures.
We are right now. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
John, where can everybody find you online, sir?
Over at Nightwing_K on the Twitters and the Instagrams.
All right, you can follow me simply at Sir Rob Bifo here. I believe everywhere across all things. Just look it up; it'll be there. Don't forget, you can also submit topics and questions to the show by emailing us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's honestanduneducated@gmail.com. Got the Hot Toys reviews and statue reviews and all that stuff go up every Wednesday. The show goes up in podcast form, so check Spotify, iTunes, whatever you use. The show that you just watched goes out weekly, both on YouTube and in podcast form. And then come hang out with us every Friday when we do live streams. We do the figure unboxings, we play some games, we do spoiler reviews and discussions and all that stuff every Friday. And that's it. That's all I got. So until next time, guys, like and subscribe, all that good fun stuff as well. You know how to do the YouTube things. And that's it. Till next time, take care.